We're going to talk National Hockey League news with our friend Eric Engels from Sportsnet Montreal. There's a lot to get into with him, and I appreciate the time, Eric. Always enjoy our visits. Haven't seen you since the Stanley Cup final, so howdy do. Bonjour. Eric, if you don't mind, can we delve into the Carey Price address earlier this week where he talked about that he'd like to get into a game this year and the Habs were a big part of his identity? I felt like that was skimmed over a lot by the national media or didn't get everybody's attention. What was that address like with CP31?
Well, it was, how would I put it? Look, I think Carey understood that the fans hadn't heard from him for a very long time, going back to the Stanley Cup final, essentially. So, it was an opportunity for him to address them directly. And with that opportunity, I think he would have much preferred for it to have been right as he was preparing to step into the crease and get back to doing what he, loves doing. And I think that was really important for him. So, it certainly took on a bit of a dark undertone in that press conference. I would have, loved for him to have enjoyed that moment a little bit more. And unfortunately, because he knew that he'd be talking about the fact that, he went away into the players assistance program and all the trials and tribulations he's been through. It was unfortunate that the 14, 15 minutes we were going to spend with him for the first time in a long time, we're going to focus on his uncertain future. So, I could understand if people felt one aspect was glossed over or another. I thought the most important thing was that he said he feels good mentally. Now you just hope that physically he can do what he wants because it's very clear he wants to play again.
Well said. And I didn't watch it. So, listen, 7 years in recovery here. I work as a certified recovery coach. Addiction is dark. Recovery is beautiful. That's why my symbol for that is a sun. How or why did it turn dark, do you think?
You know what? I wouldn't even venture into speculating about that, Rod. It just wouldn't be respectful to Carey. And, I living in a city like Montreal, obviously, rumors circulate left, right, and center. And, I've been covering the Canadiens. My rookie season was Carey Price's rookie season. So we're 15 years into this. And the things I've heard about Carey Price throughout the years that people think they know, you could fill a couple books with that stuff. And I've never really paid much attention to it because, I do respect the guy. I have a relationship with him, a professional one over the last 15 years. And, if he has something he'd like to share about what led him to what he described as a very dark place, certainly we're all ears, but I don't think he owes anybody that explanation. And I certainly wouldn't speculate on what it is. We can talk about the pressure of his job. I think it's enormous. Whether or not he dealt with it well, you never got the sense that he wasn't dealing with it well, but it could weigh on you a lot. We're also talking about a guy who's, he was born and raised in the woods and in the mountains and dropped into the biggest hockey market outside of Toronto and with potentially even more pressure considering the history of being goaltender of the Montreal Canadiens and how much passion there is for the team here. So, can I speculate that was a contributing factor to what led him there? Probably, but I don't know what specifically it was. And unless Carey ends up wanting to share that inevitably, I certainly won't be making guesses.
Of course. And to clarify, what I meant was there a line of questioning from reporters that were taking it down a road that Carey didn't anticipate would be the questions? That's all that I was asking. He was expecting a bubbly, good news conference. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think everybody understood. Everybody was limited to one question. And, the most pressing ones right now, once he had said that he was feeling well and feeling good mentally, were, do you want to play hockey again? Why do you want to play hockey again? What's going on with your knee? And do you want to play in Montreal and continue there? So I think, within those 14 minutes and everybody essentially getting one, and I got in a follow-up question, the real thing that was in central focus, if we had a lot more time or a personal kind of one-on-one situation, certainly would have gotten into a lot more of what he's been through. But obviously, as I always like to say as a journalist, there's only so much backwards looking you want to do. You always kind of want to be forward looking and get to the news. And there was some newsy items that had to be addressed within a very short frame of time there.
Well, as you can attest, he's a wonderful, wonderful guy and also a very, very high-pressure job. But moving on, I don't know where you land on the Oilers goaltending or how much of their games you watch because they play a lot west of you. But you guys have had so many goalies go through that crease. Montembeault, Caden Primo, Jake Allen. Are any of those guys, do you think, going to be up for availability at the trade deadline, or all of them?
I think you could look at Jake Allen as a possibility. Now, I think the Canadiens are going to need answers on Carey Price before they can evaluate that further. And unfortunately for Jake Allen and the Canadiens, if they are considering going down that road, he's going to be on the injured reserve list until about 3-4 days before the deadline. I will say this, you hear about the names in Edmonton that have been circulating, whether it's Varlamov or, whoever, who take your pick, I think Jake Allen could be a guy that fits into that mix as someone they should strongly look at, a guy who can be a 1B or even a 1A for a certain period of time, not necessarily full time. And I think the combination of him and Mike Smith would be a lot stronger than the combination of Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. I don't know how long the Oilers can wait to pull the trigger on that. And I'll echo the thoughts of my Sportsnet colleague, Elliot Friedman, who said, you get whatever goalie you want. You get the best goalie in the world, but you're going to have to change the way you play if you want to win when it matters most. And I think the Oilers, certainly adding Kane, they've added some depth there in that situation where up front now they're no longer relying on just two forwards and two lines, where spreading things out can make a big difference in the way they do currently play. But I do think once the games really tighten up, it becomes that much harder for you to provide the type of offense you do in the regular season typically. So, they can get Jake Allen, they could get Marc-Andre Fleury, they could get Carey Price. It won't make much of a difference. They don't change the way they play, in my opinion.
Lastly, because we were there for the Stanley Cup Finals and we soaked it all in. It was so awesome. Ole, 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 ole. It was awesome. How's Montreal dealing with this bump? The elevator going to the bottom so fast. How's the city dealing with it, Eric?
You know what, Rod? Like always doing television, radio, this is a frequent question I get no matter what the circumstances, what the news item is of the week. What's the pulse of the city, right? And what's the pulse of the fan base? And it has always become like the hardest question to answer because you see such division within the whole picture here. Like some fans are cheering for the rebuild, some are apoplectic about the state of the team, some are completely apathetic. I suggest that all three of those avenues are not where the Montreal Canadiens want to be in terms of their relationship with their fans, and they've got a lot to do to repair it. Not just because it's been a massive fall from grace, but because, like I was talking about looking forward, there's going to be hard times, and they're going to have to find a way to deal with that and really have a proper outreach with the fans and accessibility. And I think they realize that in making certain hires that they have. Chantal Machabée coming in as the vice president of communications. They've got a lot of work ahead of them, and I think fans are aware of it. And you're going to have to work really hard as an organization to keep them on board because this has been a very difficult season. And I think everybody understands too. Like there's excuses and there's reasons, and there's some pretty legitimate reasons as to why the Canadiens are here, from the loss of Price and Weber and Edmondson, and then Byron, who just played his first game over the weekend, and Philip Deneau out to LA, to the COVID and the injury. The Canadiens have the most man games lost in the league, and they had the most players submitted to the COVID protocol list. And it's been one thing after another, and it hasn't been easy. But now they've got to find a way out of it.
Fun to watch, for sure. Fun to cover, too, I'm sure. Eric, you do such a great job. I appreciate the time today, man. Stay safe. Enjoy the hockey.
Thanks, Rod. Yeah, it's been less fun to watch this year and a little less fun to cover. But there'll be brighter days ahead, I'm sure.
Right. Thanks, Eric. Eric Engels, Sportsnet Montreal, joining us from La Belle Province. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of The Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.